Today, we are talking gloves.
This is your first time here. This is where I review a product I have bought, I have no sponsorship or bias towards, and have put through the ringer. Who am I? I've been mountaineering, climbing, and backpacking for over 20 years. I'm the guy who intentionally gets lost in the woods to see if I can survive and get out with only the gear on my back. I'm the guy who buys and tests out all this gear so that you don't have to. Welcome to Short Road.
So when it comes to gloves, I like to put them in 3 different categories. Number 1 is going to be my lights. Number 2 is going to be my mids. And number 3 is going to be my heavies. So when we're talking the lightweight gloves, you have a lot of options. There are basically 3 different styles of a lightweight glove. There's going to be just your regular fleece, keep your hands warm, such as these. Another pair that I like. There are going to be your liners, like these. These are just very lightweight gloves. They're going to keep the sun off. They're going to keep your hands a little bit warm, and you can also wear them underneath another pair of gloves, but I'll get to that. And then after that, you have your basically just sun gloves. So these are actually not going to keep your hands warm. They are not designed for that. They're designed to keep your hands safe and out of the sun. So these are definitely going to breathe pretty easily. They are not waterproof. They are not windproof. That is not their purpose. After that comes your mids. These I kind of like to think of as my work gloves. These are the gloves I'm going to wear for the majority of the time that I'm going to be doing anything out in the cold with gloves. Mids are important because they need to be warm. So I need to be able to move my fingers and grip things. I need to be able to tie knots. I need to be able to, work carabiners. I need to be able to work belays, ropes. So you definitely want some dexterity in your mid-weight gloves. And what I also look for is just to make sure that they are going to be obviously waterproof and windproof. Kind of defeats the purpose if they are not. So one other subcategory of the mids are, I would say, the mid lights. So these are not as thick or as warm as these, but these are even more dexterous. I can move my fingers. I can manipulate ropes. I can tie knots. I can work carabiners. I can, belay in these, no problem. And you can also use, a sender with these. So these are really good. I do like them. They're not going to be as warm, but as an all-around glove, these things are killer. So another thing to keep in mind when shopping for those mid-weights. So after mids, we get to the heavies. These are going to be your thicker gloves. They're going to be harder to move your fingers. You're not going to have a lot of dexterity with them. The good thing about the heavies is they are going to keep your hands warm. We basically have 3 different kinds of heavy gloves. We got your normal full finger glove. We got your mitts, and then I don't have any on the table because I don't personally use them. You have your lobsters. Lobster is basically a combo of a full finger and a mitt, where the mitt is going to cover these 3 fingers. This finger and your thumb are going to be both independent instead of just your thumb and all your fingers. So that's definitely going to give you some more dexterity. If you're skiing, snowboarding, a lot of people like to use that. The only downside is because the whole purpose of a mitt is warmth, putting that finger aside is just going to make that finger much colder. So what's the difference between a full finger heavy and the mitt? Pretty simple. Full finger, your fingers are going to be in each little pocket individually, whereas a mitt, all your fingers are together. Now sometimes mitts have a liner that are like a lobster, where one finger will be apart. Some don't. Kind of depends on which brand you're looking at. That is the only difference. The biggest thing is going to be dexterity and warmth. If you need them to be warm and dexterous, you're going to have to go with the full finger glove. If you are just looking for the warmest glove you can get, it's always going to be a mitt. The downside of the mitt is going to be dexterity. Basically, all your fingers are in here. You only have a thumb. This is all you can do. You can't do this. You can do this. So you're not going to be, tying knots with this. You're not going to be redoing your laces. Even zippers are tricky without a pull tab. So these, a lot of times when you do wear, if you have to do something, you are going to be taking them off. So keep that in mind. But if you're going to altitude, if you're going to be anywhere where it's really, really cold, especially if you're doing mountaineering, summit pushes, you're going to want the mitts. The good thing about the full finger heavy, you can move all your fingers. They're not going to be as warm as a mitt, but they are going to be really warm. They are a good intermediate glove going between a mid-weight and a mitt. And if that's what you're looking for, these are your gloves. So they're plenty warm. They're going to be Gore-Tex. They're going to be windproof. They're obviously going to be waterproof. They will keep you warm, just not as warm. So again, it's going to depend on the conditions, where you're going, and also just how you feel, how you run. If you get cold hands easy, you might want to consider just going straight to a mitt and not these. But again, that's going to be a personal preference. Then we get to the hot debate of the heated glove. So here's my take on the heated glove. Do they work? Most of the time, yes. They can be pretty finicky, but most of the time they do work. They will generate heat. The downsides for me of the heated glove are basically twofold. Number one, I got to charge it. So it's one more thing I need to charge, one more thing I need to worry about to make them work. And number two is if I am going to altitude, as soon as you go to altitude and you go to very cold temperatures, batteries do not want to work anymore. So now I'm just carrying around a heavier glove, and that's just useless to me. So I'd rather just go with a plain old regular mitt to keep my hands warm. So on the light spectrum, these are the Black Diamond Trekker gloves. Again, I don't think they make these anymore, which is too bad. I would say the closest equivalent are going to be deploy gloves from Black Diamond, or like the hybrid lights, which are also really good. These I use actually a lot when I'm hiking. They breathe really well, really thin, breathable material on the top, great grip down here. They are very light. And the one purpose I would say for these is I'm going to wear these when it's warm. If I need gloves and it's warm out, these are going to be my go-to. Obviously, dexterity, just because they are so thin, is 100% there. I mean, there's nothing you can't do with these, but these are great. I still use these. They're really good at blister protection. So if you are doing like a really long hike and you're going to be using trekking poles a lot, sometimes you can get like some blisters there if you start sweating, there's rubbing. So these will help with that. Another thing is they basically block all the sun from getting on my hands, which is another problem. That is why you should always check out your base layer, especially like a sun hoodie that has a thumb hole, just so you can put it over. I made a video on that. It's pretty durable, a little more durable than I thought they were going to be. Starting to get some little rips in there, here and there, but otherwise, they've lasted a long time. So until I wear these out, I am definitely going to keep on using these. These are the Marmot Active Glove. I believe they're like 30 bucks, pretty cheap, 1.7 ounces. So obviously very light. These are basically my liners that I would have, my lights. They do have that active touch e-tip thing, so you can use a phone. It's not like awesome on really any glove, to be honest. You can see I have some tenacious tape on there because I did rip them doing something. But if I need some lightweight, basically just to block out a little bit of the chill, a little bit of the wind, these are going to be my go-tos. Again, you can wear these underneath another glove if you do get like really cold hands. And because they are so thin, so small, they basically can fit under almost any glove. I would say the one caveat when using these as a liner is just don't use them with mitts. It kind of defeats the entire purpose. The entire purpose of mitts is nothing in between your fingers, all skin. So if you're wearing mitts, do not wear these. Your hands are actually going to get colder. But these are really good for any kind of lightweight liner that I would use. So my mids are going to be these Mountain Hardwears. Again, they're just probably, I would say, twice as thick as these. So if I do need something that's going to be a little bit warmer, I'm going to move up to this. And then on the upper end of the liner spectrum, Got these Outdoor Research. These are going to be much thicker compared to like the ultralights, but these are like lined with fleece in there, and they are really warm. So these are really good if I just want to wear a warm like glove, liner glove. So these are the Mountain Hardwear Epic glove. I don't believe they make these anymore, but all they are, I've said this in another video as well, are basically a hard shell. So they're going to keep out all the water, all the wind, and they're really light at 3.2 ounces. I believe when I bought them, they were like $45. The cool thing about these is if I need a glove that I don't want to get too hot and sweaty in, um, it's going to be these. If it's just windy, if it's wet, if I need to work on the ground or anything, these are really durable. They have, full dexterity. So these are going to be like kind of my go-tos. The grip is also really good. It's starting to wear out a little bit, but again, these are like on the older side of my gloves. Another cool thing with these is you can always pair them with a liner. So if you do need a little bit more insulation with this, it's available. But basically, just think of this as like a hard shell for your hand, technical shell with like basically zero insulation. But they do have a use, and I actually find that I use them a lot more than I thought I was going to originally. But these are great. Again, I probably wouldn't take these on like a mountaineering trip, but in terms of a hiking trip, these would be awesome. And then your other option for, I would say, the upper end of the lightweight gloves are just your standard fleece. These are just the North Face Windstoppers. I like them. I mean, the fleece is really comfortable. It's warm. It does block a lot of wind. The grip is really nice. I mean, this is really grippy for what it is. Obviously, I don't want to get these like wet because they are just fleece and my hands will get soaked. So they're more of like when it's dry but cold. These are really good go-tos. And again, inexpensive, something you can wear on the trail, super easy. All right, and now my mids. Again, these are going to be my work gloves. These are my down and dirty gloves. These are the Arc'teryx Zenta LTs. I really like these. I wasn't sure if I would. Sometimes with Arc'teryx, I'm not 100% sure about the durability, but these are awesome. I use these all the time. These are kind of my all-around go-to, way more dexterity with the hands. So I don't know if I'm going to be tying, you know, intricate knots with these, but you can definitely do figure eight follow throughs. With this, you can tie in to ropes pretty easy, manipulate carabiners. You can also use these really well on ascenders. And as you can see, the gauntlet here is pretty small, which I wasn't sure about at first, but after I wore them, I just like it way better. Grip's really solid. It's a nice leather. These are, again, Gore-Tex. These are Primaloft. They are 100 gram, so definitely not as warm as these, which on the low end are 170 to 340, or going up to like 700 gloves. But again, these are going to be like my everyday glove. I wear these on basically every mountain I've ever been on at some point or another. And these are my dailies. So on the lower end of my mids, I got these Black Diamond Arc gloves. These have thin slit, 40 grams, so there is some warmth, but you're not really going to be going to these if your hands are really cold and you need warmth. But these are kind of, I would say, my mid-light gloves. Again, these I use a ton. You can see they're kind of beat up a little bit. Unfortunately, they don't make them anymore. These were based on, I think, a motocross design. You can kind of see it has a motocross type feel to it. But in terms of dexterity, I mean, these are what I use. So if I do need to use like an ascender, honestly, I'm probably going to go to these. I might be doing the Zentas, but these just work really well. Very minimal sleeve, so keep that in mind. But dexterity, I mean, I can do anything with these on. So these are really good. They're waterproof, black diamond. They don't make them anymore, unfortunately. I really like these. I wish they would, because I would probably upgrade these eventually, probably sooner rather than later. But really nice grip, really sticky compared to other gloves. You can kind of hear it. These are 4.6 ounces, so light. These are awesome, like everyday, all around use gloves if you don't need the extra warmth that your typical mid layer is going to provide. My new favorites, these are the Outdoor Research Vigor Heavyweight. I believe there's also like a midweight as well. So these are my new kind of all around go to hiking, always in my backpack glove. They come in at 2.8 ounces. They're $45 and they're awesome. The fit's really nice. They actually breathe really well, but still help regulate the temperature. So if you are starting to get sweaty, the fibers will basically start to open up with the heat, let out more of that sweat, of that heat. And if your hands are getting cold, the fibers will actually get smaller and trap that cold in there. Obviously, dexterity wise, they're awesome. They're also really comfortable. They have like an inner, let me see if I can show you, inner grid fleece type fabric, which is very nice. I would say they fit true to size. So size, your normal size on the gloves. But these are awesome. They're basically in my pack all the time. They have the E-tip little grips on there, and they actually work pretty good. They're warm, they're comfortable, like you barely feel them on. So these are my new faves all arounds. I wouldn't wear these if it's going to be like, a downpour or in snow. If I'm going to be getting my hands warm, they will block out a big portion of the wind. They are like water resistant, but they're not waterproof. And they're not going to be ultra warm as like a mid would, but in terms of like a thick upper end of the tier, like liner light glove, these are them. All right, first up on my list with my heavy mitts, I got my Marmot 8,000 meters. These weigh about 10.9 ounces. I believe they're around 275 retail. Obviously, look for a sale, try to get them a little cheaper if you are going to go with these. So these are Gore-Tex. They are lined with 700 Primaloft insulation, so they are going to be warm. Cool thing about these, has a nice grip on it. Really nice gauntlet, really good pulls as well, so it makes it easy to get off. You can also tighten this around your wrist. So what you do, slide your hand in. It's already warm, too warm. Get the gauntlet. So if you want to tighten it, you can tighten it as much as you want. So in terms of dexterity, I mean, that's basically it. So you can hold an ice axe, you can hold some trekking poles, you can definitely get like a rope. I would say it's going to be hard to manipulate like an ascender. Obviously, carabiners are going to be really hard, any kind of knots that you need to do, but that's not what these are made for. You also got self-locking pull tab, so you can really lock in that warmth. These are already, I'm just wearing them for like 10 seconds and they're already really warm. So these are definitely my favorite. And another cool thing is you have your outer shell, and you have your inner shell. So this is basically where the 700, the good thing about this is I do have some dexterity with this, way more than with the shell on as well. So I wouldn't probably want to just wear these by themselves. They are really warm, but if I need to take off the shell to actually manipulate something, I can. But again, this is just like a mini mitt inside the big mitt. So my fingers are still locked in there. It's going to keep them warm, that's for sure. But dexterity wise, no, it's not there. Also inside, let me see if I can turn this inside out so you can see what the inside is. It has a separate little hole, so you can see, and that's where your finger goes. So there is some separation that will give you a little bit more dexterity, but I haven't had any issues separating them with warmth. That said, if it was all together, I would probably like it even more. But otherwise, I mean, these are, I'm gonna, I'm just gonna go like 9.5 out of 10 on these. These are amazing. If you do take out the mitt, the best way to get it back in is put it on your hand and then slide your whole hand into the mitt. Just lines it up much easier. And then when you take it off, I just grip both. So these are awesome. These are the Marmot 8000s. So if you want to look for something comparable, not as well made, I think, in my opinion, but also really a solid glove, are the ever popular Outdoor Research Alti mitts. So these are probably going to be like the most popular ones you see when you're doing some mountaineering. They're also Gore-Tex. They just cost less. They are well made. I have used them. My only big gripe with them is they are just not as warm as the Marmots, even though they are, I would say, thicker and heavier. The Primaloft in these is 340, and I believe that's just on the top of the hand. Everywhere else is going to be about 170 Primaloft. And these run, I believe, around 200, a little bit more than 200. But really nice gauntlet on these, which I do like. With any other mitt, dexterity is kind of nil. Obviously cannot do a lot, but these are warm. I mean, these are going to do it for most people. I just switched to the Marmots just to give them a try and just really, really like them. But these are really good. And I'll take out the inner. So this is basically where all your warmth is going to be. So you got the more Primaloft material on the top. You got a little bit less over on the other sides, about 170. It does have a little bit of a grip there and on the thumb. So if you do need to manipulate anything, you can take these out. It also has a little Velcro cuff, which you can use. I usually don't really need it. I just kind of leave it as is. I don't really feel the need to tighten it. Another good thing to remember when tightening gauntlets or anything like that is don't over tighten. You do not want to cut off the blood flow to your hands. Your hands are just going to get way colder. So you definitely want some room, some wiggle room in there. That goes for sizing as well. If you're in between sizing, go up a size. You just don't want to really compress these. You want a good amount of wiggle room, as you can see, to move your fingers around to really trap that air. But again, just wearing these for 10 seconds and my hand's starting to get sweaty. So these are good. Check them out. Also in the heavies, we got another Outdoor Research. These are the Alti gloves. So basically, they're going to run about the same as the Alti mitts, but as you can see, these are full finger. So that is the only difference. They're not going to be as warm. They're going to be made out of basically all the same material. They're not going to be as warm just because of how they're made. Fingers are separated. That means each finger has to warm itself instead of all together. Think of it like cuddling, like spooning, body warmth. Two people is a lot warmer than one. So that's the only big difference. Otherwise, in terms of dexterity, again, you have all your fingers. So that's pretty nice. I do use these. I do like these if I need a full finger with some dexterity. But as you can see, I mean, I'm moving my fingers. There's not like a ton of dexterity, but there is some. So it is basically an in-between for the two. But these are also really warm. I do like them, and I actually do wear these a lot just when I need them. So these are the Alti 2s. Full finger.